Hello and welcome back to the Untitled Mike Ashmore podcast, episode 7. This is a big one, you guys. If you're a Somerset fan, this is a name and a moment that you will never forget. Arguably the author of the greatest moment in franchise history, Travis Anderson, joins us on the pod. This is going to be a fun one. Former Braves farmhand, got the Braves jersey out for him. So many more places than you think we could go on this. When you think we're just going to talk about the walk-off, no. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff, and we're going to get into it right now. Here it is, the Untitled Mike Ashmore podcast, episode 7 with Travis Anderson. All right, guys, welcome back to the Untitled Mike Ashmore podcast, episode 7, and who better to have on episode 7 than number 7 himself, Travis Elmer Anderson is on the Untitled Mike Ashmore podcast. Trav, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you throwing in my middle name.
Of course, you have to.
Not too many people know that, and not too many people say that, because Elmer's kind of a really, really old-fashioned name, but that really makes me feel pretty good, so I appreciate it.
That was one of your old kind of nicknames back in Somerset, so.
Yeah. Elmer 7 was my gamer tag when I used to play online. I'm trying to think, who came up with that? I think Matt Hagen actually came up with that name when they introduced me to the gaming world. So, yeah, Elmer was big back in the day.
I remember you and I used to play that computer game where I kind of created all the Atlantic League guys in that, because I was out of the park baseball or something like that. I did that, so I know you've always kind of been big into gaming and stuff, so that's cool to see.
Yeah, love it. Love my video games. So
same. So there's so many places that you and I can go, and I know if fans are tuning into this, I'm sure that they want to know about the walk-off, and we'll get to that, but I kind of want to start at the beginning. I was doing some research for this, and I saw that you almost went to college as a field goal kicker. Is that true?
Yes, that was probably one of my things that I'd love to do on the football field more than besides baseball. I used to love to kick football, and I got decent at it. I was a lefty kicker.
Wow.
And I hold my school record. I kicked a 47-yard field goal, and if I had to do it again, I probably would have stayed with that a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, that's the old. I got a couple letters, and that was about it. But there's so much love for baseball, and I couldn't give that up. I mean, I enjoyed football, but yeah, I don't think they would have really liked me in high school if I just was the kicker too much. So
yeah, that's
not back then.
Never the most popular guy in school is the kicker on the football team for sure. But obviously, things worked out really well baseball wise. You get drafted by the Braves. I guess how much attention was there on you back at that time, heading up to that draft?
I mean, there was a little bit. I mean, I was kind of an unknown kid from Northern California. I mean, I did pretty well in junior college, and then
Shasta College, is that right?
Shasta Junior College in Redding, California. I did pretty well there. Made a little bit of a name for myself, and then once I got out into the Midwest, we had a scout day, and I guess obviously I did pretty well. And I remember them talking, hey, come into this room, talk to these guys, all right. And the guy who actually I bonded with really, really quick was a guy named Tyrone Brooks, was the scout for the Braves in the Midwest at the time. And, we just started, small talk here and there. He always stayed in contact with me. And that's actually the scout who drafted. And then I got drafted by the Braves. He was the Midwest scout for the Braves at the time. And we still stay in somewhat contact to this day. So huge thank you to Tyrone Brooks.
Yeah, so you get drafted Braves 2001, 25th round, I think. I guess what is there a live stream of the draft at that point? Is there just a phone call that happens? I guess how do you find out?
I was sleeping at I lived in, where was I? I was at my brother's house at the time. And they called me in the morning. My brother's like, hey, you got a phone call? And I was like, all right. Got woken up out of bed, and they told me I got drafted, and it was just it was obviously as a baseball player, that's the first thing you want is to be able to have a chance to play professional baseball, and I was a huge Chipper Jones fan at the time, and just to be able to be in the same organization as him and be able to get drafted, and just in general, that's your dream. I want a shot to play pro ball, and to have it all happen like it did, it was absolutely crazy. It was from a small town in Bernie, California, to being drafted was great.
Yeah, so you're in the Brave system for 2 years, kind of looking at some of the guys that you played with. There's a pretty obvious name to ask you about, and that's Adam Wainwright. Got to play with him, maybe catch him a little bit in 2002. I guess, what do you kind of remember about that time?
He was unbelievable. I mean, we had the Brave system was so deep. So when I was in Myrtle Beach, I'm a big golfer. Like, I love to play golf, and so was he. So we became really, really close. But to catch him at the time, you just see like this big, huge guys, like 6'7", 6'8", and you're like just seeing the athleticism, be able to move around, and he just adapted to everything that he was taught by Dale Canton, was the pitching coach there, was just absolutely madness. I mean, he just adapted and was so competitive on the mound, and his drive to be the best. You just knew that he was destined to go to make it to the big leagues. And then, not to me, I mean, there's people that knew that he was really good, but then that year he got to go to the Futures game.
Okay.
And that was cool to kind of see him, like, one of our guys, we're just like, hey, listen, we're in A-ball together. Oh, what's going to happen? And then all of a sudden you see him on playing the day before the All-Star, you'd be like, what the heck? You're like, that one of our, and then everybody started seeing, hey, listen, it can happen really, really fast. And he was fast-tracked. We actually stay in contact to this day. When he comes into Philly, I take the family over to go see him, and it's been a great friendship to develop over the years.
Yeah, so I feel like this is kind of a common theme of doing some of these podcasts is as I look at the numbers in affiliated ball that you had those 2 years, and they're pretty good. They're pretty solid. So I guess what ended up happening that you ended up moving on from the Braves, and then I guess how do you end up signing on with Camden?
It was you want to know what? I remember in spring training that year, it's the first time ever in baseball I doubted myself. We were doing some drills. I turn around, I look behind me, and I see this kid that's like 6'3". I'm like, who the heck is this kid? So we started chatting, and it was Brian McCann. And I'm like, oh okay. Well, let's see. He's about 4 years younger than me. He's bigger than I am. He hits left-handed. He's a power guy. And it's just, and he's right there. They have some money invested in him. And he was just off the charts character-wise, could do everything on the baseball field. So there was just, no spot for me as far as, being on, what do they want, a backup catcher, somewhere. So they just, they ended up releasing me that year. And then I talked to my wife about, actually, Tyrone Brooks was down there. He gave me a list of independent baseball leagues and teams and people to call. So I just started calling general managers. And my wife told me at the time about Somerset. I called Somerset, talked to Adam Gladstone at the time. Okay, yeah. And they just said, listen, you don't have much experience. We mostly try to take guys that are AA, AAA guys. And I was like, all right, no, I don't take it personal. And then I talked to, I got on the phone, luckily enough, with a guy named John Brandt. Great guy, John Brandt. Unbelievable. He actually came to my wedding, and we've been in contact. We still stay in contact to this day. Came in and said, hey, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll take you on the team. We have, I think his name was Francisco Morales, was from Long Island. They just got him. And he was like this big power hitting catcher. And I was like, listen, I just want an opportunity to play. So I got on the phone with John Brandt. He said, let's do this. And that's how it basically came to Camden. So, that's John Brandt gave me an opportunity, and it was great. Yeah, you had the 3 years in Camden. It seemed like you were kind of always fighting to be that guy who was getting the bulk of the games there, but you were kind of getting experience, and when you were getting that experience, you were playing well. Your numbers were really good there. So I guess how valuable were those 3 years in Camden to kind of, in a sense, kind of get you prepped for getting to Somerset eventually? I would say the biggest thing that probably changed me in Camden after my first year, I played a little, I just wanted to play baseball. I knew I didn't want to stop. I knew I had a drive for it. Because when I got released, I told my dad at the time, I was like, Dad, listen, I'll give this 2 years. I'm done. He goes, you play baseball, and first to get it out of your system. And I was like, all right. So once I flipped that mindset, my first year I met a guy named Kevin Jordan.
Okay, yeah.
A utility guy. He like took me under his wing. I had him, a guy named Brett Laxton, and a guy named Ben Simon, and a guy named Kane Davis. So Kevin really told me, like, started helping me out with the catching and how it looked, and because one of his good friends was a guy named Mike Lieberthal. So we bonded, and we started chatting baseball all the time. And I'm like, this is what I needed. I needed somebody to still kick me in the pants, still keep me on my toes. And that was the biggest development. Was he used to always like hold me accountable for things, and I loved it. You know, we both from California, both went to the University of Nebraska, so it's like all this stuff. You're like, whoa, all right. So we bonded really, really quickly, and he helped me out more than anybody. I mean, as far as developing as a baseball player, and still, hey, listen, this is a game. You never know when your opportunity is going to come, and just jump started me. And then Ben Simon and the pitchers. You know, I was young, but they played in AAA. A couple guys played in the big leagues, and Laxton and Kane just said, hey, listen, I want this done this way, and I started really adapting and just continued to keep soaking it in. I'm like, okay, I'm going to adapt this way, change this a little bit, alter this, what he likes. And those four guys really jump-started me and really said, hey, listen, it's independent baseball, but take it serious. You never know when your opportunity is going to come. It was a great development for me for like my first year and a half. And I was like, then I was like, hey, listen, I'm really, really ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good group, too. I'm sure a lot of people probably don't remember or know who are listening to this. Ben Simon, at that time, what if he wasn't one of the best, he was probably the best pitcher in that league back at that time. So those are some good guys to learn from. But eventually, I guess it was time for you to kind of move on, get traded to Somerset. Was that something that you requested? I guess, how did it all kind of come together?
I was actually living in Flemington at the time. And I'm like, listen, it doesn't seem like, I don't know if I'm signing out of this league or whatnot. And over there, it was like always, like you said, I was always like fighting for time. I was like, listen, I just want an opportunity to start this season just to play. That's it. And then if I don't do well, then hey, so be it. So then I actually talked to Joe Klein at the time, and I was like, hey, Joe, listen, I guess he was, I don't know if he was running it or whatnot. And I know he's running the league and stuff like that. So I said, hey, Joe, is there any way I can get get out of Camden? And he goes, like, where? I was like, and I told him my situation. I said, listen, I live in Flemington. That's where my wife's from. I lived with her parents at the time, and she was still going to college. So I was like, so can I get traded over there? I'm like, it's 20 minutes from my house, so it's more of a convenience thing. And he said, well, let's see what we can do. And I got traded for a guy named Nick Stocks.
Yes.
So, yeah, Somerset, and, I remember talking to Gladstone again, and it seems like, I guess I proved myself enough at the time to be part of the Patriots. So, they said, all right, let's do this. So I got traded over, and that's basically how that all began. I just asked, I didn't demand. I was like, hey, listen, trade me. Or I was like, can it happen? And then all of a sudden, I think it was just like a couple of weeks later, I got on the phone with Adam Gladstone, and he said, listen, you're not going to be the everyday catcher, because they had a guy named Fernando Lunar.
Yes, former big leaguer, yep.
Yeah, and I was like, listen, or what can I do? He goes, if you're not going to catch, you're going to hit. And I was like, great. Listen, I just wanted my name I don't want my name to be at the bottom of the lineup anymore. I was like, I don't want to be a sub anymore all the time. I was like, can I just have an opportunity to play every day? And they gave me the opportunity to play every day, and the rest is history.
Yeah, but I mean, you basically do end up playing a ton. You literally doubled your games that first year, from 54 in Camden in 05 to 108 in Somerset in 06. But I'm curious, is there a different feel when you go from Camden to Somerset? Obviously, it's the same league, but Somerset, there's more of that kind of big game kind of vibe there most nights in that ballpark. Is there a different feel when you go there and you get to go in that home clubhouse?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was sparky. And then the guys that we had at the time, it was, and I always knew Jeff, playing against him. and, just having those guys just get after it. And it was just a core of guys that you knew that were going to every night just, hey, listen, we're not in AA, we're not in AAA, we're not in the big leagues, but we take this as seriously as we can. So that was where it was fun. We were getting good crowds every night, and just everything around Somerset, starting with hey, talk about Steve Califer as the owner. You're talking about Sparky Lyle, and just everybody involved with the Patriots was like, listen, we're different within the league. It's, there's I'm not saying, oh, listen, we're so much classier than everybody, but a lot of professionalism went in. It goes into to being a Patriot or being with the Somerset Patriots, and they take pride in how they are in the community, and I like that, especially living here year round. I was like, wow, this is really, really neat. And then Sparky just saying, hey, listen, I just want you to get after it. That's it. And that's the only way that I knew how to do it. So he really let me go. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, being around those teams and also kind of talking to Sparky after the fact, it seems like you guys kind of had a bit of a special bond there. I guess, how would you kind of describe your relationship with Sparky?
He took it way beyond just baseball, as caring for me as like a human being, which was, he was like I'm not going to say like a dad figure, but like a really, really like awesome uncle at the time. So he was, you kind of think, oh, that's Sparky Lyle, like, and then he just like, listen, I'm a former player. I love this clubhouse. I just want us to bond. And that's the most important thing with Sparky was like, listen, not just during the game we're in the foxhole together, but in the clubhouse, how do you treat each other? So, and there's some stories about, like, I went through a time there where I think I had like 3 concussions in a year. And I remember talking to Ryan McMahon, the trainer at the time. And, I was like, hey, what can I do to change like my mask? I was wearing the 2-piece mask. Hey, go to the hockey style. And then Sparky brought me in and said, hey, listen. And it was like a real like heartfelt moment about him saying, you got to really think about life after baseball if this continues to keep happening.
Yeah.
And that touched me the most. I'm like, this guy's not just thinking about me as a baseball player, me going to battle. It's like he truly, truly cared for me as a person. And that, every time I see him, it's a huge hug, and it's like that warm, crazy connection hug. And I love the guy to pieces, and for what he did for me, not only on the field, away from the field, but just caring for me as a human means more than anything.
Yeah, it seemed like those first 2 years that you were in Somerset, things were kind of slowly building to where things eventually got. Could you kind of sense that as well, that, things were kind of coming together with that core group, and maybe you were like a piece or two away from kind of ultimately getting to do what you guys did in 08 and 09?
Yeah, it's just like this in every, like, I would say it's tough now, like guys wanting to really buy in. Like this, I just want to play baseball, and the Atlantic League has given me that opportunity. And we got, we had a couple pieces. Jeff was going to continue to keep playing. I was going to continue to keep playing early on, and we were there to go together in 06, and then in 07 I'm pretty sure that's the year we added Presley late.
Yeah.
And then we got, and then I think Hagen was there as well. So it was like guys really wanting to just play. Hey, listen, I just want to play baseball. That's it. And Somerset always had a great way of getting the guys that bought in. It's tough to buy into the Atlantic League and be a core guys, 4 years in a row or 3 years in a row of knowing the people that were going to come. So we had, 3, and then you had another guy that really, really bought in, 4, and then 5. When you get that many guys buying in that are good baseball players, and on top of that, like, listen, when we're here, this is it. We're getting after it night in, night out was the most important thing about it. It wasn't just like, oh, it's independent baseball, this, that, and this. Listen, it's very, very good baseball. And on top of that, we're getting after it. Listen, we do our work, take it serious. Hey, we're here to win. And that was, we expected that. We expected to take, we were really close in 07. And then 08, and then in 09. Listen, 08 was crazy with having And then you add a guy like Brandon Larson
Yeah.
in 08, who you're just like, gosh, dang it. I mean, he was carrying teams in AAA, and then when he made it to the big leagues for a little bit, he did his thing. But you add him to the mix, there's another guy that just said, you know what, shoot, we're just, gave us a confidence and a swagger that it was just absolutely madness. So that was a lot of fun to have those just little pieces here and there. And, once you have the core, you can add a guy here or there, another guy that's going to buy in. The guy who signed the guys at the time I think Brett was signing guys at the time. He really did his background, and, Brett's got a good judge of character, and he gets on the phone with you, really tries to feel you out, and, he does his due diligence, and that's a testament to him as well.
Yeah, you mentioned being close in 07. I want to ask you about that because I was in Newark for that championship series. And I remember, and I'm not sure if you do, but I think I remember correctly that if you weren't the last one left in the dugout, you were one of the last guys in the dugout watching the Bears kind of celebrate on the field. What was that kind of feeling like, and how much did that maybe motivate you and motivate that group to do what you guys went on to do?
I wanted motivation, and it was just for us to be able to talk in the off season. I felt like when we went into the dugout, or we were in the dugout first, then we went in the locker room. It was like we missed that opportunity.
I will never forget that clubhouse. By the way, after that game, there were guys crying in there. I mean, that was as serious as you guys took that. That really sticks with me.
Yeah, it was. My college teammate RD Spees.
Yes.
Was on the team, so it was like to see things come full circle, and guys knew in a sense when they go there, like, listen, this is going to be my last ride, and for guys to really buy in that much, you knew it. You're like, man, he was bought in all year, and RD was an emotional leader for us that year, and we had Lincoln Mickelson was another. That year that was
came in late. Yeah,
and he was like, hey, listen, he was a hired gun in this sense. Let's say we got him, and listen, he knew how to pitch to the league and stuff like that. So for guys to really understand the whole league, it was important for us that, listen, we expected to win. It's when you put in Somerset, that's what it is. Our expectation was to win it every single year. And it's to be different than everybody. It's not, we're putting a team together to have some fun. Hopefully we do. No, listen, we're putting a team together to win the whole thing. It's that simple. We came up short in 07, and we knew how close we were. So the core guys, like, listen, we're doing this. So we stayed in contact during the off season. And, hey, I know this guy. And it kind of, hey, he'd be a great addition. And then in 08, it was a lot of fun. So
yeah, so let's get into that. Let's get into the fun stuff, man. I brought it up at the beginning, and the walk off. This is what Travis Anderson is known for: is hitting that walk off home run, dude. I mean, I was there. I'm not trying to make it about me. I've done some big stuff. That moment remains one of the most freaking awesome things I've ever covered in 18 years of doing this. That was incredible. So what I want to know everything that you remember about that moment.
Well, the 08 season, kind of like a build-up. I played a little bit. Belcher had a great year that year. So me playing that last game, I was like, wow, that's, just playing in the series, I was like, okay, let's get after this. I remember the build-up of, we had the bases loaded in the bottom of the 8th, and their closer, Alex Zumwalt, struck out Radmanovich and kind of stared him down a little bit. And Rad's like, whatever, So, and I knew I was going to lead off the next inning, so I put my stuff on and went out there. And Brian Reith went out, and if he threw 10 pitches, that was a lot. But he blew the doors off of everyone. And, I'm getting chills talking about Reith at the time. And he kind of had an up and down year that year, but when he was on, he was absolutely electric, and he was on that night. And he struck out I don't know if he struck out the side, but I don't remember. I remember bits and pieces of it, but I remember him walking off and giving this huge fist pump, and he said, "Let's go!" And it just energized everybody, just an absolute shock of adrenaline. And I was like, "Man, let's get this." And I was leading off, and usually, listen, I think I hit 4 home runs or 5 home runs that year, not known to be a home run guy. And then there was this Sparky doll, and we were chatting, some of the season ticket holders at the right there by the on deck circle. We're chatting. There's a Sparky doll, and one of the guys looks at me. He goes, "Let's end this thing." And I was like, "Yeah." Thinking, yeah, that'd be great. Hopefully I get on base and somebody can drive me in. So I get up, and I remember the first pitch. It was, he throws pretty hard. I think he was like 91, 93 at the time. Good slider, good changeup. So I see the first pitch, ball, another one. And then he throws a pitch, 2-0. And the ball, like when it came in, looked like it just got huge. And I'm like, wow. And I was like, whoa, that's a strike. And I'm like, okay. And then it was the 2-1. And when I hit it, I was just like, I hit it, and I immediately looked at the left fielder. And I'm never like a guy to pimp a home run or anything like that. But as soon as I hit it, I look at the left fielder, and like I take 5 steps, and he puts his head down, and he knew it was, and I was like, whoa, oh my gosh. I just hit a walk-off home run, and I was so excited to get back to home plate to celebrate with the guys. And I was like, that was me, I was able to give back, after us being carried on our backs by Brandon Larson and Josh Presley all year. For me to do something like that at home, it was, besides being drafted, which is everybody's, and making it to the big leagues is probably that's the greatest moment of my sporting life, so, and to have it, I don't know why they videotaped it, because typically they didn't really videotape me. It's like, you have Presley and you have all these other big hot guys, but thankfully they got it on film. And for me to hit that ball like I did, and I remember the crack of the bat. I remember skipping. Once I hit third, I was able to come around home plate. I skipped home for a little bit, and I was just so excited to be able to give Somerset that moment. It was, you just talked about it. It was so special to me. My wife was there. My father-in-law was there. My mother-in-law. There's a bunch of people there that typically normally during the week that don't go to games because they work, but we're there, and just everything was such a magical moment at home. I want to say it's probably still the only time they won it at home. So, and we haven't won it at home, and being so close in 2007 and having all those guys back in 2008 was just, and then Brian Reith doing what he did in the top of the ninth and getting all pumped up. It was just, it was absolutely magical.
Yeah, I think maybe some people from the outside looking in don't know too, is that you and Alec had played together back in the Brave system as well. I don't know what your relationship with him was like, but to hit it off of him, did that make it any different?
Yeah, absolutely. We did play together. And then to have it, we played together. We were actually roommates in Myrtle Beach when he converted over to being a pitcher. And he was pretty good. He got really good, really, really fast as a reliever because he had a really, really good arm. But I remember Michael Ryan telling me something early in the year that, there's some trash being talked. It's just baseball. Guys talk trash, and it's always fun. And, but that stuck with me. Michael Ryan said something to me that year that he was talking trash in the bullpen, even just during a game. Michael Ryan's in left field, and the guy was saying stuff that, they had our number and all that. And then, I faced him earlier one time that year, and he struck me out. And against old teammates, you just really don't want people to get you. And,
yeah,
for him to be able to, for me to face him in that moment and for that to happen, it was just like a combination of things coming together.
Yeah, that ended up being the last pitch that he threw, and there was some thought maybe at the time that might be the last at-bat that you had, that you might choose to go out on top. I know you were kind of dabbling with the idea of hanging him up at that time. I guess what went into the decision for you to decide to come back?
I was working out at Health Quest, and I was like, why do I continue to work out? And I was like, no team. And then I got on the phone with probably like Presley, and a couple of other guys like Hagan. And I was like, I think even Jim McGrain, we called him Buzz Lightyear. Jim McGrain.
He was a different guy.
Yes, he is the most interesting baseball player I've ever been around. So it's like I was talking, we were just chatting, like, let's just do it again. And I was like, and I was like thinking, I talked to my wife, maybe that's the last swing I ever take. And I was like, but I still have a fire that I want to play baseball again. And I want to know that it's going to be my last year. And I want to go into the season knowing, okay, listen, I'm going to get it all out because this is going to be my last year. And I decided, working out in Health Quest one day, and I was like, I'm going to play one more year. And so, I talked to Brett, and they had me back to play again. And I was like, let's do it. And that year, I mean, we beat you anywhere. I think that's the year that we had Michael Ryan, right? 09?
I'm trying to think. So I'm trying to remember what year you guys had the spring training at Cusk. 'Cause I know that was the year that he was there.
Okay, that might have been 08 then.
No, 08 was Michael Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I remember us, and then in 09, I mean, it didn't matter where we played you. We were beating everybody. If we lost 4 series that year, I'd be shocked. I mean, we just beat everybody on the road, walked people off, big innings, everything. So that was, 09 was just an absolute madness, knowing that we had something special that we could do that no other team in history has done in the Atlantic League. So that was our mindset going in. Hey, let's put a real stamp on this thing and be the first team to ever do it.
Yeah, you talked about kind of how crazy and impressive, in an impressive sense, that team was in 09. I feel like that team kind of gave off that vibe too. There was kind of that swagger, that confidence. Did you kind of feel that too when you were there?
Yeah, because even when we went to, I remember going to York, and it didn't matter if they had a 9-run lead on us going into the top of the 9th at their place. We would just find a way to win. And I remember they would you hear their guys from the press, or you read their paper, or you talk to somebody on their side. It was always like, we're at York, and everybody hated us because they've won so many titles before I got there. And then they always tried to trick themselves into thinking that they could beat us. And we didn't care. We would go into a ballpark and we felt like we were at home no matter what. And we're just like, okay, all these fans are here to watch us win. That's what they're here to do. It don't matter what the other team's going to do. Doesn't matter what's going to happen during this game. Our starter went 3 innings, gave up 6 runs. All right, we got to score 7. We just had a mindset that we were so confident in ourselves that we were going to be able to figure a way out of whatever jam we had. And in 09, and then you add guys, down the stretch. We added a Jason Standridge that year. Yeah. You talk about a big horse, and it's always like that year. It was crazy because every start he had, it was like 1 inning. He'd give up 4 runs. You're like, how the heck does this guy give up 4 runs in 1 inning? But we're like, okay, we got to score 5 next. Now we got to score. Now we know what we're playing with, and just everything. Somebody picked us up there, picked us up here, and just in 09, it was just another magical year because our core guys, and we continued to sign guys that really bought in to being and playing in the Atlantic League and being, what we were in Somerset. And that was, we were winners. As simple as that. So that was another magical run. And it started from the beginning of the year. Like, listen, we're going to do this. We're just going to continue to keep winning. And, 08 was so fun. Let's win it again in 09.
Yeah. So you do that, you go back to back as a player, then you go right into coaching. I guess, is that something you kind of worked out towards the end of 09? Was that something that kind of came together in the off season? I guess, what is that transition process like?
Well, I heard, some rumors of Katie not coming back.
Yeah.
And, I became pretty close with Sparky and Brett. And, I was like, I'm going to be done after this year. So what do I would love to coach. So we talked, and Brett's like, why not do the same thing I did? You just go right into coaching. I was like, all right, that'd be kind of cool. If the opportunity ever came up, I would entertain it. So that's what happened. I chatted with him little by little, and then towards the end of that year, I heard that KD wasn't coming back. And I was like, listen, I'd love to throw my hat in the ring. If I could be a coach here, that'd be great. And that's what happened in 2010. I was able to coach and, just jump right on. And it was a little transition for me, but, it was a lot of fun. It was a learning experience. It was part of what, I still think about today as far as, when I'm coaching these kids, that, some life lessons that I learned or some baseball lessons I learned during those couple of years of coaching. So it was a great transition. It was a lot of fun. And for me to still be able to be around the guys, they made it a better transition for me. Presley, Hagan, a guy named Joe Burke. And then, we brought in Donnie that year. So it was a lot of fun, a different combination of guys to really help me out as well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Is it difficult to essentially be coaching some guys that you were just playing with? Is that a challenge at all?
It was a little bit, but then I found out, talking to Brett and stuff like that. Listen, I've seen Josh Presley be the best hitter in the Atlantic League at times. So when he was saying need to make an adjustment, we kind of go back to, or think back to, hey, listen, this is what you were doing back then. We may be a couple of years older than what happened, but let's just try to go back and try to get back to the basics of you and really help them more or less with the confidence and, hey, listen, all right, we can still do this. Let's figure a way out. And all it is some good old hard work and get after it. And that was what made it easier. And it's just conversations and, little by little, it was a talk here or there. And, being friends with guys helped a lot for me as a coach early on.
Yeah, something I want to ask you about too, and I know it's something you did as a player, but it's kind of a role you more embraced, and the coaching side was kind of your role in the community. I know that's something, like I said, you took a lot of pride in. I guess how much did that mean to you to kind of, for a time, kind of be one of the faces of the franchise and the organization like you were?
It was amazing. I loved going out to schools and doing the campaign about bullying with Mark Rushinoff. I mean, once he brought that to my attention, I was like, could this be something? Because I never did any public speaking, but we went through and we had a couple talks, and he goes, hey, why not? Let's go to a school and let's have a chat. Talk about reading or something like that. I was all right. And then the campaign for Strikeout for Bowling came up, and I was like, Mark's like, let's do this. And I was like, all right, I'm game. And being able to go out and just chat with kids, and it's just basically, we talk about baseball a little bit, and then we start talking about, he gave me a list of words to talk on, and it became a lot of fun for me, and it's something that I knew I wanted to stay connected with the community because I was always here, but being able to always see a familiar face that I've seen at ballparks was really, really neat. Seeing young kids at school, teachers, some administrators, but being able to really be with Mark and knowing how big of an impact Somerset had on this area, I knew I wanted to be a part of it. I didn't know how big of a role I was going to play, but when Mark brought this idea to me, I jumped all. I was in full force. Once I did, after my first one, I was like, oh my gosh. He goes, you're going to be fine. And we just continued to keep rolling with it. And now Mark and I we're really, really close. And so to have that is something that I knew I wanted to do. I just didn't know at what capacity, and to be able to still be able to jump in and be able to go to schools and do all that stuff was meaningful to me at that time. It was a lot of fun because I knew Somerset was really, really about staying connected with the community.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about the timeline here, so I ask this genuinely not knowing, but did the coaching role in Somerset, did that kind of lead to the transition to Diamond Nation? Were you already doing that at that time? I guess, how did that all kind of play out?
I would do Diamond Nation in the offseason started in 06.
Okay.
I got here because I played with Kevin Cuss, and his family owns Diamond Nation. So
Yes.
He called me, and I started talking with him a little bit, and I was like, I live in Flemington, so he goes, you got to do this, man. He goes, we got a great thing going here. And so I was doing that in the off season. And then we had a daughter. My daughter was born in 2010. And I was like, I'm away from her 70 days a year. And I was like, and I've been away from my wife the same amount every year. I was like, so I went into my boss, Keith Delgard's office at the time. I went into his office, or he's still my boss. So I went to his office and I said, hey, listen, Keith, if there's ever an opportunity for me to be a full-time employee here, I would really like it. And he sat down, he goes, oh, okay. And then like 2 days later, he said, you want to be full-time? Let's do it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So, I made the decision with my wife, and, I was chatting with Brett a little bit here and there. And, I was like, listen, I'm pretty much done. I don't want to travel. I don't want to be away from my daughter. And I knew we were possibly going to have more kids down the road, and kind of thought it was unfair to my wife for me to be gone and just put that burden on her all the time. And I was over it, and that's kind of led to a smooth transition for me to come over to Diamond Nation and really continue to teach baseball from the ground up. And that's what I really, really enjoy, is teaching a kid like the building blocks of baseball. And I get that opportunity to do it here.
Yeah, so tell me about what you're kind of working on now. I know Glove Plug is a thing for you. I know you're kind of posting some videos during this kind of crazy time on Instagram to kind of keep yourself busy and kind of do some instruction from kids. I guess what's kind of keeping you busy right now, Trev?
I do gloves. The glove plug is like some fun. A guy named some guys around here said, "Hey, listen, if you ever relace the glove, I always said kids' gloves break." And I was like, I started doing it a little bit in Somerset, and I was like, I can relace a glove. And slowly but surely, it's kind of grown into me being a guy over at Diamond Nation now. Listen, string breaks, I can fix it. I can relace a glove. I can condition them, take them apart. I can do all this stuff. So now what I'm doing is I buy, sell, and trade baseball gloves or equipment like bats and stuff like that. So that's kind of been my thing that I do on the side, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Still keeps me connected with baseball, and I enjoy working with baseball gloves and figuring things out, and being able to restring a glove be able to change the color from brown to say red is something it's neat. And I'm like, oh, listen, I find the satisfaction. I was like, I can do that. So that's my kids have been keeping me busy. But as far as the glove plug thing, it's been nonstop. I'm connected with baseball nonstop, and that's something that's always going to be part of me over here, I suppose. So now that people need their glove relaced or reconditioned or whatever, I can do that. So that's fun.
Tell me about these videos on social media too, man.
Yeah, me getting on the camera, teaching, just getting back to basics as far as simple setup, secondary position. What is it? The one knee thing, the blocking position. That I feel that. I mean, there are videos out there, but over at Diamond Nation, we have a connection with so many people that if I can help out somebody, and especially right now during everything going on, I feel like people are really really reaching out and wanting information, and especially now that maybe a dad doesn't really know the ins and outs of the catching position, because that's probably one that most people have never done. And if you've never done it, it's really, really hard just to kind of fake that position. You can't fake that position. So if I can help out in any way doing a 2-minute video, then that's what I'm made to do. So me being able to be a dad and all that, but me being a coach is an instructor is which is something I really, really enjoy. And it's been a lot of fun, me really thinking about getting back to doing lessons again, but get in front of the camera is, not something I always, let me get in front of the camera and do all this stuff. It's to give back to baseball, because this game has given so much to me.
Yeah, I like the old Patriots Travis Anderson fat head in the background of them as well.
Yeah, we got a few of those. I was fortunate enough to be one of the people that they made the fat head of, and you want to know what? It's awesome. It's just to have that, and then they made the figurine of me, and then T-shirts. I'm actually coaching a couple kids now that were there in 2008, but I think they were like 4 years old. Shoot, they might have even been younger than that. So the kid's 11. So yeah, he's about 3 or 4. But his mom's like, hey, he was there that night, or we used to go to the games all the time. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's been it comes full circle, and so it's I just love it.
Yeah, I think that transition's perfect to the last question I think I have for you, and that's just that people are still asking you about this, and that people still care about that moment. I think it's 12 years removed from it. I guess, how much does that mean to you?
More than anybody will ever know. My daughter, there's only a couple swings that I think, honestly, that might be the only swing on video. There's only a couple swings of me on video. And I remember when she was a kid, she'd always watch that video. And she asked me, Daddy, how come everybody doesn't hit a home run? You do. And I was like, oh, gosh. Now my daughter, now I'm like straight dad mode. I'm like, my daughter thinks I'm the greatest ever right now. So it'll never get old. And I'm so happy that it happened in Somerset and that I'm still able to have that moment for the rest of my life in Somerset is something that it'll never get old. I'm glad I was able to do it in Somerset. And, when I go over there and see, Rushinoff and Dave and McVeary and seeing those guys and knowing that what we did there is just so special.
Trav, this was awesome, man. I was so great to catch up with you. I miss kind of opening the door to that little side door and seeing you thrown in the cage and your special little greeting to me every day that you would give me for better or worse. I miss all that, man. So we'll leave that story for another time. But I appreciate everything, man. You've always been great to me, and it's great to see you having so much success in your post-playing days, man. So best of luck going forward. Thank you for the walk-off. That was an incredible moment for everyone who got to see it, and thank you for your time today as well, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me on here.
Thank you, Trev. All right, guys, thank you so much for checking out that episode of the Untitled Mike Ashmore podcast with Travis Anderson. Trav and I have always had a pretty fun relationship, kind of dating back to his days as a player, even with Camden, but especially his time as a player in Somerset and then as a coach for the Patriots. We always had a fun time together, and it was really great to catch up with him. I hadn't really talked to Trav in a little while, so it was kind of nice to pick up right where we left off, and I'm glad I was able to bring that to you guys. And thank you again for taking the time to listen and support this podcast too. For you guys to get me up to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube really means literally more than you guys know. So that was really awesome. I appreciate you guys so much for that, and I really look forward to cranking out some more of these podcasts to keep you guys entertained in kind of a difficult time. So stay safe, stay inside, and wash your damn hands. This is Mike Ashmore for episode 7 of the Untitled Mike Ashmore podcast. Thank you again, guys. Love you all. Thank you.